Comedy, romance, adventure, redemption. Thoroughly entertaining and beautifully staged and photographed, Harold Lloyd's penultimate silent film, The Kid Brother, is widely considered to be his masterpiece, both on screen and off, with Lloyd focused on family ties, putting down roots, and building a legacy. The Kid Brother was close to home. Hollywood shining bright in 1926. At the peak of his career, Lloyd spent most of the year making The Kid Brother. His Metropolitan studio home still stands in the heart of Hollywood. Nearby, the Pickford Fairbanks studio and Chaplin studio also remain, while Keaton's neighboring studio is now lost. Above it all looms the Hollywoodland sign. Yes, the original sign, built in 1923, was once longer. That's Burbank to the north beyond the hill. Once part of the Spanish-era Rancho Providencia, the Laski Ranch in Burbank lay nestled between the Los Angeles River and the hills of Griffith Park. Used as a movie ranch by Universal in 1912, producer Jesse Laski leased the property for filming in 1918. Paramount built many outdoor sets here during the 1920s. Since Paramount was proudly releasing The Kid Brother, this is where Harold did most of the filming. The press crowed about the film's working title, The Mountain Boy, and how Lloyd was scouting mountain locales and planning for a remote shoot. Yet the production could not have been closer to home. The ranch stood barely 5 miles from Lloyd's studio. In fact, the downtown settings from Safety Last were farther away, and the boardwalk scenes from Speedy were farther still. Returning to the ranch, D.W. Griffith staged the Civil War battle scenes here in 1915 for The Birth of a Nation. These distinctive trees appear on camera, and 2 survive today. Beyond the low hills, a wedge-shaped bullfighting ring was built for Paramount's 1922 production of Blood and Sand. Here's director Fred Niblo with Rudolph Valentino beside the set. Further south stands a large home and barn built for Paramount's movie, The Old Homestead. The house and barn would appear in a trade magazine and again in this publicity still. Harold filmed a deleted scene here on the roof of this barn set. From a fire road high in Griffith Park, the wagon looks down on Hickoryville, a set built at the Laski Ranch. This early view north matches the scene. Visiting today reveals landscaping and green lawns. Why? Because, as we'll see a bit later, the ranch was developed into the Forest Lawn Cemetery that opened in 1952. Incredibly, Stan Laurel and Buster Keaton would later be buried here within the approximate confines of this shot. Laid to rest 4 decades after Lloyd filmed here, fans continue to pay their respect today. The Hickoryville Church and other town sets built at the ranch clearly appear during this scene. The Kid Brother was influenced by Tollable David, a rural drama from 1921, where a young brother avenges his family against a trio of thugs. Perhaps typecast, one of the thugs, British actor Ralph Yearsley, plays the town bully Hank Cooper. Returning to the flat end of the Laski Ranch, we see now that the Hooper family farm was portrayed in the film by the same house and barn used in the old homestead. When Harold retrieves his laundry from the Hooper place, it was filmed in front of their barn. Later, the front yard and doorway of the Hooper home briefly appear when Harold comes calling for Jabina's character, Mary. When Harold married his leading lady, Mildred Davis, in 1923, he hired Southern beauty Jina Ralston to take her place. Jabina's warmth and grace paired well with Harold's vibrant energy. Jabina made 6 feature films with Harold during the 1920s, his peak productive years. With her contract expiring, The Kid Brother would be her final Lloyd appearance. 3 hills divided the north end of the ranch, with sets built where it was flat on either side. The third hill looks down on the Hooper farm and plays a remarkable role in the next scene. Smitten with Jobina, Harold doesn't want the moment to end, so he climbs higher up a tree to keep her in sight. The visual eloquence of this charming scene is nearly without equal, a highlight of the entire silent film era. The shot was brilliantly staged by filming from an elevator camera tower built on this third hill, keeping pace with Harold as he climbs the tree. The view north from the third hill is revealing. Slowing Harold down, various sets from the Laski ranch appear through the trees, perhaps even the Hooper farm. Looking north, these trees along Alameda Avenue in Burbank also appear in the shot, which means the future site of the Walt Disney Studios stood behind Harold during this seemingly remote scene. Now looking south, the hill where Harold climbed the tree lines up with the Disney Studio, which opened in 1940. Though they no longer appear in this photo, the hickory farm at the Laski Ranch stood uphill from the Hooper farm, nestled among the trees. Taken from 18,000 feet in 1927, this remarkable photo of the ranch actually shows the Hooper farm set and hickory farm set when they were standing. While it's hard to see, let's study this photo of Harold standing on the Hooper barn roof. Behind him you'll see the Hooper house and a distinctive small and large tree. These elements clearly match the aerial view. Likewise, this scene from the movie shows the hickory barn to the left and the family home to the right. Again, these elements match the aerial view. Unlike prior films where Harold leaves home to find love and success, cheered on by adoring family members, the kid brother is completely different. Harold's disapproving father and distant brothers loom large, while nearly half the film takes place at or even inside Harold's home. Harold not only strives to win the girl, but perhaps more importantly, the approval and acceptance of his own family. Family friend Richard Simonton, who first helped to preserve the kid brother, recalls one thing that tickled Harold every time they watched the film together: the line in the letter regarding the damn money. When Harold entertains Jobina with the stereoscope, he slyly introduces a very personal slide. This bridge was actually part of his massive Green Acres estate, undergoing construction in Beverly Hills during the time of filming. The estate had over 40 rooms, with grounds featuring a dozen fountains, an Olympic-sized pool, and a 9-hole golf course. Here's Harold and his wife Mildred Davis beside their home in Los Angeles before Green Acres was built. Viewed through a stereoscope, the twin images create the illusion of depth. Harold was an avid 3D photographer, a lifelong passion. Later in life, he took thousands of stereo images, including these of his family and the Green Acres estate. Here's Harold beside the fountain at the Green Acres entrance court. It was big news when Warner Brothers loaned rising star Louis Milestone to direct Lloyd's Mountain Boy production. Milestone likely resented it when Lloyd dared to appoint Ted Wilde as co-director a few days later. Although Milestone would go on to win 2 Best Director awards, including one for the Best Picture, All Quiet on the Western Front, all was not quiet on the Laski Ranch. Filming began in June, and by early July, Milestone was publicly complaining about Lloyd's so-called interference. Although Lloyd generously shared screen credits with his crew, he always held full creative control. Milestone was not a happy camper. Fed up, on August 9th, Milestone walked out after giving 10 minutes notice, leading to lawsuits and countersuits with Warner Brothers. Lloyd gagman Ted Wilde, who had co-scripted the film and was already co-director, then took full control. Remarkably, when Wilde became ill in November, another Lloyd gagman, Kitty Howe, finished the picture. Lloyd was so pleased with his work that he chose Wilde to direct his next picture, Speedy, as well. Here's Lloyd, Wilde, and studio manager John Murphy posing with Babe Ruth, who plays an important role in Speedy. In September 1926, Lloyd headed from Burbank's remote mountaintops, down to the sea. Long a Hollywood playground for fishing and yachting, Catalina Island was an extremely popular filming location. Several other movies filmed there that year, including The Yankee Clipper and Cecil B. DeMille's King of Kings. Harold filmed at this protected cove in Catalina Harbor, facing the open Pacific. A matte painting created a V-shaped ridge for this dramatic sunrise opening scene, showing the island fire road. Harold acquired an old lumber ship, the Palmyra, that ran from Seattle to San Pedro for 50 years. Named the Black Ghost for the production, she reportedly arrived at Catalina under her own power and was breached in the sheltered cove. Aboard ship, Harold jokes with the film's editor, Alan McNeil. Still unconscious, Harold drifts towards the Black Ghost. Harold's nemesis was played by Konstantin Romanov, a former professional wrestler who was apparently a sweetheart in real life. Romanov appeared in 5 Lloyd films in all. The Black Ghost sequence is a triumph. The danger is real, the action authentic, and the steep deck and rocking boat keep us literally off balance. Yet the sequence is also packed with joke after joke, each flowing naturally from the next. It's a tribute to Lloyd's storytelling and his creative team. Here, Ted Wald gives direction aboard ship to editor Alan McNeil, cameraman Henry Kohler, and Lloyd's chief cameraman Walter Lundeen. Plagued by complications from a war injury, Wild had to quit directing Lloyd's first talking picture in 1928 and died suddenly a year later at age 39. His widow Phyllis would later marry Walter Lundeen. At the end of the film, Lloyd speeds home behind a galloping wagon that he would repeat later in Speedy. The race home was staged back at the Laski Ranch along the dusty fire trails, east down this trail, west along that. This scene was staged high up in the hills near Griffith Park. While the hills and fields have been graded, preserved now as peaceful cemetery grounds, there are moments when the mountaintops still realign with the past. Paramount shut down the ranch late in 1927, removing the many sets. It was the end of an era. After a racetrack was built there, the Three Stooges used it for their 1937 comedy, Playing the Ponies. Despite controversy, the LA City Council approved using the former ranch as a cemetery in 1948. These views show its famous hills being graded to make room for burial sites. The Forest Lawn Cemetery and Mount Sinai Memorial Park now occupy the site. This photo was taken in 1927, a year after Harold finished filming. The Walt Disney site is an open field. The Birth of a Nation trees stand at one end, the Hickory Farm at the other, and 3 hills divide the 2 backlot fields, each loaded with sets. By 1928, the sets were all gone. The 3 hills were graded flat to create space for hundreds of graves. The old Hickory Farm site lies in the back region of Mount Sinai, while 2 of the trees appearing in The Birth of a Nation, now massive oaks, remain standing. It seems strange, but also fitting, that the cinematic field of dreams, once appearing in dozens of early films, now preserves the final resting place for many Hollywood stars. Harold races home just in time, saving his father's life and the family name while bringing a killer to justice. "Son, you're a real Hickory." With these words, theater audiences spontaneously cheer Harold's triumph. After all that he's been through, after all that he's accomplished, Harold Hickory is finally welcomed home. Redeemed by love, Harold and Jobina begin a new life together as the movie closes. The Kid Brother is a brilliant comedy, heartfelt and thoughtfully tailored around home and family, themes that had never before played such a role in Lloyd's films. A personal favorite, Lloyd's final public appearance was to promote the film in London. With its rightful place in movie history assured, The Kid Brother will always be close to home.